Hello everybody and welcome to episode 3 of Ask Shaf Live. If this is the first time you've ever seen one of my videos, let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a serial entrepreneur, I'm a business columnist for a national newspaper, and I'm a former dragon on BBC Dragon's Den Online. Now, during the lockdown, I decided that I was going to basically try and pass on some of my knowledge through my YouTube channel. So certainly for the next 3 or 4 weeks, if you've got any business questions, just send them in to me. So let's jump straight onto the first question. Murdo Ross. Hi Shaf. When buying commercial property like you did in the video at the auction, how did you finance it? Does the bank pre-approve to lend you X amount of money and allow you to choose whatever property you like? Murdo, you've hit the nail on the head. Basically, we have a facility with the bank and we decide what property we want to buy and we just draw down against the facility. So you've hit the nail on the head, yeah. Bra moments with the boys. Stick to your day job, you ain't made for video. To be honest with you, I probably wasn't made for TV either, but that certainly didn't stop me. But thank you for your comments, it's much appreciated. Darren Van Ruin. Great video, Shaf. Have you ever done comparisons between commercial property investment yields or return on investment versus traditional types of businesses for sale like restaurants or manufacturing concerns as an example? Darren, I've done it loads and loads and loads of times. I call those businesses trading businesses, and in my life I've been involved in loads and loads and loads of trading businesses, but I prefer property businesses because I'm in a unique position. Property for me is a lot easier than other businesses because I know a lot of people in Scotland. I'm very, very well networked. I probably have 10 meetings a day. So in these meetings, I'm speaking to business people and they're chatting to me and they're telling me about their business, say, and they'll say, oh Shaf, we're doing really, really well. And I've filed away in the back of my head, this company's doing really well and they may need bigger premises. And if we basically buy a building that's suitable for them, I'll pick up the phone to them. So property for me is a lot easier than a trading business. Okay, but I'm in a unique position. For me, that's why at the moment I prefer property. Why don't people get together and do some sort of class action against Samuel or any of these gurus? Noise, I think people have got together. I was going through the internet the other day and I saw this details of a class action. I'll stick the link in the comments below and just check it out. James Dogood, Shaf, following the videos, can I ask, the Bowness care home you purchased for $220,000, how were you able to sell it 3 weeks later? Was it a cash buy and you simply remarketed it as a development opportunity with a specific brochure, or did you actually have draft drawings pulled up and plans lodged? So the day my offer went in and it was accepted, I knew that day that I was going to get that property. It was going to take 4 weeks to do the legals. During that period, we had a meeting with the architects and we did some draft drawings. We did the brochure and I immediately instructed Sandy Falconer. Now, what I'll do is I will stick a link in the comments below because I think Sandy promoted it on LinkedIn. We got a series of buyers or people that were interested almost immediately. So I'll stick a link for that actual post below and you can check it out. I'll also put in a link for the actual architect's drawing. Sadiq EM. Hi Shaf, really enjoying your content on YouTube. I'm 19 and I've recently had an offer accepted on a property. Next stage is the valuation for mortgage. I am a little worried the valuation will be lower than I would need. Well, Sadiq, if the valuation's lower than what you need, what you're going to do is 2 options. You're either going to have to go back and get a mortgage, which requires basically less of a deposit, or the alternative is you put in more cash. I mean, literally, that's it. There's nothing you can do to try and influence a valuation. Craig Stewart, how can you clarify about surveyors sourcing properties? Do they do this all the time? Is this a standard service they offer? Well, we work with several firms. We work with a firm called Allied Surveyors. And basically the person we work with, Ian Mercer, he does this for us. We work with Graham and Sibbald, again, they're a national firm, they offer this service. And we work with Ryden, and they're a national firm, and again, they offer this service. So most large firms will offer this service, yes. Next question, Bartek Basinski. I think I'm just going to cut to the chase here and go to what the actual question is because it's quite a long comment. The question I have is as follows. What would be the most valuable asset skill for a deal sourcer who has never worked as an estate agent or chartered surveyor but wants to be seen seriously and trustworthy of parting the investments? I work with several deal sourcers, okay? Now, these deal sourcers either have worked for big propcos or they're chartered surveyors. And what I base it on is track record. I probably get 50 or 60 emails a month of people offering to send me deals, and I disregard most of them because it's just such a waste of time for me to try and pursue the deal. It's got to be somebody credible. And I think you can only build that credibility through experience. And I know it sounds a bit harsh. That's me personally. But notwithstanding this, there may be other people that you may be able to work with. But certainly if you came to me and you said, Shaf, I've just set up as a deal sourcer, would you buy this from me? There's a lot of time that goes into doing due diligence. And I would just say, do you know what? I don't know. Glenn Jones. Hi Shaf, can you give me some advice on how to find a mentor, please? Well, Glenn, I've touched on mentoring and education in episode 1 of this series. I get asked loads and loads and loads of times by people to be their mentor. I do mentor a couple of people. I met them in my role as the resident entrepreneur at the University of Strathclyde, but I couldn't possibly mentor everybody. Let me tell you some of the tips and advice I would give you on this question. First thing is, don't approach a stranger, because I get, and so do some of my friends, get loads and loads and loads of messages on social media, emails saying, hi Shaf, my name's such and such, and I want to set up X business, can you mentor me? And this is just some random stranger, and it's just weird, okay? So the first thing is, just do not approach a stranger. You've got to have some sort of relationship with the person that you want to get mentored by. That's the first point. Second thing is, do not ever get a mentor that wants to charge you for it, because they're not a mentor, they're an educator. Now, let me give you my thought process on this. If somebody is basically offering to mentor you or teach you, they are an educator. How do they get clients? It's dead simple how they get clients, okay? They've got pictures of them jumping about in their Range Rovers. They've got pictures of them on flash holidays, etc. They've got pictures of them in flash hotels. They've got pictures of them wearing expensive watches. And the subconscious message that they're trying to give you is, yeah, you pay for our services and you will be as successful as them. These people are educators. In theory, they do the same role as a university. So let's compare their marketing to the marketing from a university. When a university sends you a prospectus, do you see people jumping about in Range Rovers? Do you see people lounging about in pools next to 5-star hotels? No, you don't. So it's a different type of education. So what you don't certainly want to be doing is going for a mentor that you have to pay. So I have never in my career ever charged anybody for mentoring, and I never ever will. Just remember that. So if you do want to find a mentor, right, what you want to do is you want to get yourself onto the radar of a successful local business person. So you can do that by connecting to them on LinkedIn, going to networking events they're at, going to functions where they're at. So that's what I would do. Then I would try and build a relationship with that person. And then once you've built a relationship, then you want to think about mentoring. That's how I would meet a mentor. Remember the golden rule, don't ever pay for mentoring. There's not a successful entrepreneur that I know that has charged for mentoring. Hi Shaf, do you have any suggestions on ways to attract and employ experienced operational staff in areas that you don't have experience in? Over the years, I've got involved in lots of areas that I don't have experience in. When I first set up my first IT business, I didn't have experience in IT. So what I did was I employed people that had experience. In that instance, I used the job centre. But since then, I've developed quite a bit. So what I do now is I use a recruitment company or a headhunter. Now, I'm going to talk about my company eNet. I've mentioned that in previous videos. Now, my company eNet was an uber successful tech business. Now, how I did that was I asked somebody at Ernst & Young to help me recruit all of the management team for that. In other businesses, I've used an employment consultant or a headhunter. So what I would probably suggest to you is to use a headhunter or an employment consultant, and effectively, you've just got to negotiate the terms of the contract. So if they don't find you the right person, you can get somebody else. And the other thing is, I would ask around, I would ask your friends, I would ask business associates on who they would recommend as a good local recruitment consultant or headhunter, and try and get 4 or 5 different companies, then interview them. So that's what I would do. Jamie Wright. Hi Shaf, question for you. I have around 10k saved up. I'm looking to buy a property. I still live with my parents, although I want to flip and try and build up my capital before moving out, so unsure what route to take. Jamie, I mentioned in episode 1 about how I would do it. If I wanted to generate wealth from property with very little risk, what I would do, I would buy a house for me to stay in. So you stay with your parents. Eventually you're going to need to move out. So why would you not go and buy an apartment or a house, and then rent a room out, say, make sure that this apartment you can add value to it, or this house you can add value to it. And then when you do eventually sell it in a year, 2 years, 3 years, any profit you will make will not be subject to tax because it's your own home. So literally, that's what I would suggest you do, because it will give you the experience of property and it will be very, very risk-free. I would really suggest, right, that you go and watch episode 1 of my video, and that will explain it a bit better. Thank you. Carl Fielding. I'm currently learning my CMAP. Do you think there is a market for mortgage advisors? And do you have any tips for me business-wise? Carl, there's definitely a market for mortgage advisors. Every mortgage advisor I know seems to be doing really, really well. Do I have any tips for your business? Yeah, I do. I think the most important thing is a business is all about relationships. You work with people you like. That's what I certainly do. I work with people that are trustworthy. I work with people that are reliable. I work with people that go out of the way to help you. And those relationships stand the test of time. So what you need to do is you need to turn yourself into one of these people. You need to turn yourself into somebody who's trustworthy, reliable, and somebody other people want to work with. Shaz. Assalamu alaikum, Shaf. Wa alaikum assalam, Shaz. Do you believe the greatest way to increase a property portfolio is to buy houses which can then add value and then remortgage and then effectively extract revaluation? One follow-up question, what area in the UK would you invest in? Shaz, what you're suggesting to me does work. There's absolutely no doubt about it, it does work. But what you're doing is you are building up a house of cards. In the event of a recession, the whole thing will collapse. In the event of a recession, if you breach your covenants in relation to LTV, and I've done a video for this, I'm going to leave the exact part of the video in the comments below. The bank has a number of options, and one of these options is repossession, and people say that'll never happen, but unfortunately in the last recession it did, and it happened very, very badly. The other one is they can charge you default interest. So all you're doing is you're building up a house of cards, so you need to be just very, very careful with this strategy. The second question is, in what area do you invest in? I invest in areas that I understand. I understand Scotland really, really well. I understand the area in and around Edinburgh like the back of my hand. So that's the areas I would invest in. I wouldn't go out of my way and say properties are really cheap in the north of England, I'll invest there, or properties really cheap in, say, Liverpool, I'll invest there. No, I will invest in areas that I know. Callum Stevens, do you use surveyors to find you residential properties? Yes, I do. When I used to invest a lot in residential, I still have a residential portfolio, but when I used to invest in residential, yes, I used to use Graham and Sibbald to help me find residential property, and the instructions were to find me small portfolios. So in answer to your question, yes. Stephen G, what are your thoughts on buying commercial retail units in the next 2 months? Stephen, I've touched on this before when it comes to property at the moment. I think I'm not going to do anything for a couple of months because there is no doubt about it in my mind. I feel the market is going to go down. Some people are saying to me the market isn't going to go down because valuations are based on previous sales. Okay, they're based on comparables, what a similar property sold for. And bearing in mind, there's no transactions. So there's one argument that is being put forward at the moment, which is that if there's no transactions, there's no comparables. So if a property in the high street for £100,000 before the pandemic, and then there's no sales in the high street until after the pandemic, the valuation after the pandemic, the argument is exactly the same. My personal opinion is that property prices will go down. I just don't know how much by. And you can only make investment decisions when you have enough information. Now, if the market is going down, the best time to buy is at the bottom of the market. And we just need to establish when the bottom of the market is. Now, at the moment, there isn't enough information out there, so I certainly personally will be doing nothing for the next couple of months. Joshua Akoli, what would you say is the best way to invest in property with £10,000 to £20,000? Joshua, that's quite a big variable, £10,000 to £20,000. Let's say it's £10,000. Okay, you can't do really anything in property with £10,000. Unfortunately, you're just going to have to save up. Now, I've already touched on if you don't own a home, what I would do to get an understanding of property. Okay, I've just answered that question a few minutes ago. If you've got £20,000, yeah, it might be just enough to pay a deposit for a buy-to-let. There is no scheme that I can give you. You know, a lot of people will argue, oh, you should do rent to rent and you should do lease options and you should do this and you should do that. Me personally, no, I wouldn't do it. I know dozens of property entrepreneurs and there is not a single property entrepreneur that I know that has done rent-to-rent or lease options. So I just write that off. I'm sorry, but it's good old-fashioned. You need to save up and you need to buy a buy-to-let or you need to buy a commercial property. The archive. Is Crowd Kitchen only available in Glasgow? No, the first Crowd Kitchen is basically in Edinburgh. We have planning permission for it. We were expecting our building warrant, but because of the pandemic, we haven't received it yet, so we've had to delay the contractors on the fit-out. So at the moment it's in Edinburgh. We have a second site in Edinburgh which we're working on, and we've instructed our agents to find us sites in Glasgow, and we're probably going to do sites in Aberdeen as well, but we're just not quite sure yet. But certainly we've instructed our agents to find sites in Glasgow. So that's the two locations. LR. Hey Shaf, so I have several buy-to-let properties, but still in a position when I have to do a 9 to 5. What would you recommend I do now to take things to the next level and stop doing my 9 to 5? So LR, I think the question you're asking me is basically, should I pack in my job and just rely on my rental income? Well, personally, if it was me, I wouldn't do that, because let's say you need £2,000 a month to live on and your portfolio is giving you income of £3,000. If you pack in your job, your portfolio is only going to give you an income of £1,000. So if it was me, I would try and stick in that job for as long as possible, so any income your portfolio generates can be reinvested back into the portfolio. So that's the way I would do it. Lee M. Shaf, loving these videos. A few questions for you. 1. For your rentals, do you have a standard generic rental agreement you use? Or do you pay a solicitor each time? Or do you get a new agreement written each time via a solicitor? For our residential properties, we use an agent to basically manage them, and they deal with all of that. For our commercial properties, it depends on what the property is. So for example, we own an industrial estate called Enet Park. I'll leave a link for it at the bottom. Now in there, for a lot of the smaller units, we just offer a standard license agreement. It's non-negotiable. It's like a 3-page document and the tenant just signs it and that's it, end of story. Then we have other buildings. And what we do with them is we get a bespoke legal agreement for that. Now, it's on our standard terms, but we'll change things. For example, we may increase the rent-free from 3 months to 6 months, or we may ask for a rental deposit depending on the covenant strength of the tenant. So it really depends. But in most instances, apart from the stuff that we do at Enet Park, we issue a fresh lease for each one. Question 2. When you buy to renovate, do you have your own team employed? So we do have a team, but they're not employed by us. We have several preferred fit-out contractors. We have a couple of architects, and we'll choose between the two of them. We have a couple of project managers. Again, we'll choose between the two of them. So we do have a team, but they're not employed by us. Lee M's question 3. Any inside tricks to find the owner's contact details for some land or rundown property, apart from searching in the land registry? Well, there's been times where the details have been a bit ambiguous on the land registry, and what I've done in those instances is I've spoken to my solicitor, and because I have a good property solicitor that's well connected, he ends up basically finding it for me. Or alternatively, I'll ask my agents, because a lot of the deals that are introduced to us come through our agents, so they will come up with the land details anyway. So I don't think that question is quite relevant for me. Question 4. Hypothetically, say you had £1 million to start your property company today. Where would you start? Straight into rentals or commercial? This is me. I have got a great experience of commercial property. I know which tenants are going to be looking for bigger premises. I know which tenants are going to be basically downscaling. So me personally, I would jump straight into commercial property. However, if it's somebody that's just starting out in property, what I would suggest to you is you sort of hedge your bets. You have a small residential portfolio, okay, let's say £300,000. Then your commercial portfolio, you need to split it into 2 parts. You need to have a core portfolio with good long-term leases to good covenants that generate you guaranteed income. And then finally, you have a little play fund which you use for trading and asset management opportunities. So if you've got £1 million, that's what you should do. Random Fanatic. Hi Shaf, watched your video in full, but you haven't answered my question like you said it would. Mate, I'm so sorry, okay, because I tried to answer every single question last time round, and the person that was editing the video for me said, Shaf, there's no way you can put a YouTube video up for 2 hours, so they made me cut out huge chunks of it, but I'll answer your question now. From recollection, you were saying you've just bought a buy-to-let property and you can't get a tenant. Is there any help for it you can get from the government? Unfortunately, there isn't really. I'm sorry. EA123. I'm considering going to university to do a degree, but not sure which one is more worthwhile and effective in the long run. Accounting and finance or law? Well, EA123, I sort of gave my views about university before. Now, what I would urge you to do is to do something you're going to enjoy. That's the most important thing. There's no point in you doing accountancy if you absolutely hate it. Because if you hate it, you're not going to enjoy your time at university. And university is all about learning other skills. It's learning how to basically manage your time, how to apply knowledge to problems, how to think it analytically. So, that's the important thing to remember. I remember reading an article some time ago. It was a survey of CEOs of the FTSE 100. And it was the degrees that the CEOs had done. Now, I'm going to try and find the article and stick it in the comments below. But it transpired the vast majority of CEOs of FTSE 100 companies had done science. It was followed by arts, and then business, and then finance. You would think that the CEOs of FTSE 100 companies would have degrees in accountancy or they'd have degrees in law, but that's not the case. So I would urge you again to literally go and do something you will enjoy. Next question is from Connor. Shaf, would you be able to explain more about your crowd kitchen, specifically around the pricing point per kitchen, and whether you'd look at yearly leases or much shorter leases, such as daily or hourly? Connor, that's an interesting question, okay? Because when we first started, I was going to adopt a dynamic pricing model. Now, Amazon, for example, has a dynamic pricing model. What happens with a dynamic pricing model is as the demand increases for a product, the price goes up. So there's certain times of the year where there was going to be high demand and the price was going to go higher. Now, as soon as we announced that we'd got our planning permission for crowd kitchens and it went in the press, we were inundated with inquiries. So much so that people came in. So I had a meeting with somebody that I know quite well. It's a chap called Nicholas, and he owns a business called Bonnie Burrito. So he came in to see me. Nick, he was my first ever client. And I met Nick because he used to be a tenant in a building that we used to own. And I was like, right, Nick, how long do you want to rent it for? And I was thinking he was going to say 3 months, 6 months. And Nick wanted to rent it for like 10 years. And I was like, wow, this is just mad. Okay, we agreed basically we were going to let it to him for a prolonged period of time. Then after that, we met up with other people, and the vast majority of people that want to rent these units, they want to take them from anything from 3 years to 5 years, because what they want to do is they want to fix the price that we charge them in terms of rent. They don't want to be in a situation whereby we say, okay, in year one, it's £200 a month for a kitchen. Okay, I've just made that figure up. Okay, I'm just plucking it out of thin air. It's £200 per month per kitchen. Then we get really high demand and their lease is over and they come in and negotiate a new lease and it goes up to £600. So what they're trying to do is fix this for as long a period as possible. So a lot of this is work in progress. In theory, we should have started the fit out for these kitchens now, but we can't because of the lockdown. So as soon as the project starts, I'll give you regular video updates about the progress because I certainly won't have time to do videos like this. But what I can do is give you updates about what's going on in our various developments. So I will give you updates about what's going on in crowd kitchens. You can see the fit out happening. You can go and see it behind the scenes. You can see us negotiating with tenants. You can see it the kitchens when they're fully operating, and I'll share all the price points and all that sort of stuff with you then. Jamie F, there's a lot of videos on no money down property investing on YouTube. Is no money down investing really a thing? And if so, how is it done? Jamie, I've been doing property for 2 decades. And in theory, I have done 2 no money down deals. But in practice, I had to put money down. No money down deals exist on YouTube because it's a way of getting people into basically courses. It's as simple as that. Now, let's think about this logically for a second. If there's a course advertised which says, I will teach you about property, but you need 30 grand to get started, the chances are it would basically stop 98% of the people that are attending from attending because they'd go, I don't have 30 grand. But if you can dress it up and you can say there's no money required, people will attend that and then they will pay money to learn the secrets of these no money down deals. And there is no secrets. I mean, basically, it's rent to rent. And I've done a video on that. It's lease options. I'm going to do a video on that. I should have actually finished it by now, but I want to interview somebody for the video that tried it. And basically, because of the lockdown, I can't interview him, but I may just take the interview bit out and just upload it in the next few days. I'll have a think about that. So no money down deals don't exist. I can give you 2 examples of no money down deals, which I did, okay? The first one was the deal for Martin and Frost, which I mentioned in my video prior to this one in episode 2. But we did have to put money down because we guaranteed an overdraft for £1 million. On top of that, we had legal costs, we had architects' costs, all that sort of stuff. So that wasn't a no money down deal. Then a couple of years ago, I basically bought a building in Sighthill in Edinburgh. This deal, it was introduced to me by an agent who brought this deal to me. And the building, I bought it from recollection for £1.1 million. Now, it took us 4 weeks to do the legal work on all of this. And during this period, I asset managed the property. So by the time I got to the day that I was paying for it, I'd already asset managed it and I'd add value, I'd found a tenant for the building, etc. And on the day that basically I paid for the building, I already had a buyer lined up and I sold that building the very same day. And when I say sold that building, we were simultaneously running a sale agreement and I sold it for £500,000 more. I'll actually do a dedicated video about this because it's actually quite a good deal. In my opinion, no money down deals don't exist. To do property, you need money. It's as simple as that. But these courses are sold on the basis that you don't need money to do them. And they only exist on YouTube. Ask any property professional, ask any proper property lawyer, ask any proper property entrepreneur and say, are no money down deals possible? Yeah, you might be able to do 1 in 100, but you certainly couldn't make a living doing no money down deals. Damo B, what's your best advice on entering a new industry? Would you go straight to books or what research or preparation would you do? Damo, that's a good question. My whole Crowd Kitchens thing, I basically read about something very similar on the internet and I thought, oh, that's a good business. So there is no books because it's such a new concept. So I had a look on the internet. Then I basically flew out to Hong Kong to look at something very, very similar. And then I also flew out to Jakarta to look at something very, very similar. So that was the research I did for it. Then I came back. I spoke to a few potential tenants to see what they thought about the idea. And the feedback I got off everybody was it was a brilliant idea. Then at that stage, I contacted one of the directors of Deliveroo to get their opinion. Once I'd got that final opinion, we pressed the button, we went ahead with it. So that's the research I did for that particular deal. So guys, there you have it. Another episode of Ask Shaf Live just finished. Now, before I go, can I remind you, please leave me some questions in the comments because if I don't have any questions, I can't produce another episode. And remember, I'm only doing this until basically the pandemic's over. So if you have some business questions or something that's been niggling you for ages, now's your chance. Stick it in the comments and I'll try and answer that for you. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe and hit the like button for this video because it really helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Thanks again.